I'm not used to the process being kind of out of order like this, but I'm just going to go with what the instructions say because I'm not very familiar with this process. Hey, good morning. It is the next day, and last night I achieved everything I set to complete, and certainly a sewing machine is very fast and helped me accomplish that. So today's goals is just a bunch of the tiny things that we need to finish the dress. So we have these edges to finish. Right here around the sleeve, we have the top to finish. Here on the tops of the sleeves, we need channels for the elastic at the bottom of the sleeve. So we have the 4 strips of elastic here. There are quite a few reasons why working on the collar is important in this stage before I start with the sleeves, and that's because the edges around that area need to be finished before folding over that elastic channel and sewing it down. It's just easier to finish all of these little details all the way around the collar, since the back, the tops of the sleeves, and the front collar part are all one seam anyway. I just went ahead and went around the entire top of the dress. So I have the channel started, and I'm just trying to get it as roomy under here as possible so the elastic will fit all the way across. So as soon as I'm done getting the channel properly sized, I'm going to hand sew this edge, because the machine can be a little erratic and I don't want to lose the precision I need to get as close to this edge as possible to leave as much room for the elastic as possible. So everything on the top of the dress will be hand finished. This is one of those cases where precision and accuracy is more important than time. Then making the channels for the ends of the sleeve should be much easier because it is a straight edge all the way across. And up here it's more curved. So it has this big curve across the top of the sleeve, so it's going to be a little more difficult to maneuver. But just as long as we get all of this finished by today, it shouldn't be a problem. It's worth noting at this time that this particular project has taken on its predecessor's propensity for bad luck. But it's also worth noting that this is a process, and I understand that process. Trial and error. What's important to me in the end is that what I make is well done and not rushed. So if certain things need to be redone in a given project, I am certainly willing to explore those options. In the end, what I decided to do was to remove the elastic from the ends of the sleeves and add armbands instead. That way I could add those beautiful petals we see on the original dress. I will now need to create 6 petals for each sleeve, 12 total, all in a lighter seafoam green color according to the reference photos. The ends of the sleeves, the seashell top, and to the end of the skirt all need to be in a much lighter seafoam green color than the center of the dress, which is a darker green. So the next part of this project will need to be in a lighter shade than the green of this core dress. Fortunately, I have an extra yard of linen in seafoam green. Okay, so I've gone ahead and tested the gathering on one side of the dress. So you can see I've trimmed down the sleeve significantly and taken off the entire bit that had the elastic channel and the elastic itself. It looks better. It's a shorter sleeve, and with the gathering being tested on this side, I have to say it looks a lot better that way too. So I'm going to go ahead and go forward with gathering this side, and you can see here it's not a perfect trimming. I just went across it with pinking shears and just trimmed the entire sleeve down, but once I have it gathered and tucked into an armband, it really won't matter what it looks like on the inside because none of this is going to show. Tomorrow I'm going to focus on adding the armbands. I'll just go ahead and use the machine for that because why not? And then we'll add the petals and we'll see how this all comes together by tomorrow. Since I've replaced my idea for elastic with a nice stiff armband, buttons will be necessary for the next step, and in order for me to add those buttons, a certain amount of overlap here will be necessary to make those buttons work. I've had a lot of time and experience thinking about the best way to add armbands and waistbands and even bias tape to my previous garments. What I found is one side at a time is the best way. Otherwise, I'm wasting a lot of time agonizing over a perfect alignment on both sides and just trying to sew them both down at the same time. Instead, it has become much easier to sew one side and then sew the other side. That way one side is already secure and I can just align the other side right to the other side that has been secured. So today I am hand sewing the shape of every petal, and there should be 12 total, 6 for every sleeve, and these will be the petals that go right at the edge of the sleeve. And I've marked here in glue chalk the basic shape. Those original marks you'll see were my original measurements, but they turned out to be too wide for 6 to fit on one sleeve, so I remarked them. So they're narrower, they're basically going to go all the way around. It's double layered. So instead of hemming a petal all the way around, I'm just going to sew 2 layers together, flip them inside out. So we're starting here because this is the new measurement. This is the old measurement, but then I made them narrower, so we're starting right here. I'm going to follow that blue line all the way up and around. And I'm choosing to hand sew again because it gives me more control. Sometimes I lose control with the machine. It goes so fast that if I go off seam, then it's just a pain to undo and resew. Also ensures that the stitches remain nice and small and tight. And the tighter and the smaller these stitches are, the longer the seam will last without the petals coming apart, and that's what I want. Generally, you don't cut threads with pinking shears, but it's what I have on hand right now, and it works just fine. Found this at Michael's It's a perfect match. It is polyester thread instead of cotton, but we were there already for other things and just happened to go through the thread aisle and found a perfect seafoam color. We went for it. Now all the petals are complete and ready to be sewn onto the dress. I am choosing to, as usual, hand sew these petals onto the armbands. The first thing I do is use a finishing stitch or whip stitch. I usually choose a whip stitch or finishing stitch when construction is a higher concern than aesthetic. So I am using this finishing stitch to secure the petals to the armband throughout. As you can see, I am simultaneously using this moment to hand sew the ends of the armbands and finish every part of the armband that wasn't machine sewn. I use the whip stitch to finish all of these ends as well. There is a lot of intricate detail work that comes with finishing a garment like this. Hand sewing over machine sewing ensures the precision I'm looking for in closing all of these loose ends. Hand sewing does take significantly more time to achieve than machine sewing, and lately my process has been deciding which is more beneficial to the swiftness of a machine sew or the precision of hand sewing. And what usually happens these days is an unusual mix of the two. This is just one of the many things that adds my own unique personal touch that makes my dresses very special. Now that the petals are officially secured to the armband, I'm switching to an invisible stitch. The invisible stitch is a more aesthetic look and will give the illusion that there is no stitch there at all. This will ensure the petals stay where they need to stay without there being an obvious stitch there to hold it down. Mental engineering and veering off of these patterns is the hardest part of making a dress. Elastic didn't work, but in order for the armbands to stay secure around my arm, we need a form of closure. That's where the buttons come in. And thanks to my former dry cleaning days, I do have an impressive button collection. Fortunately, I had some options. One option was the abalone shell buttons, which theme-wise I think was very appropriate, but I also had these iridescent or pearlescent green buttons that would also work. Ultimately, I chose the green buttons because they were smaller and I could fit many of them onto the armband instead of one large abalone button. It would have been a lot harder to fasten a large button than a couple of smaller ones. This concludes Chapter 2 of Siren Alice. Next up will either be the apron or the underskirt.
Welcome to the channel, like and subscribe. Isn't that what YouTube wants us to say? Our lords and master at Google? Yeah.